Hello and welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I'm Big Italy 42 here talking about tonight's slate of action. Tuesday night, and finally, we have some good pitchers on the mound. We've got David Price, Jose Fernandez, Price at 11,400 against Tampa Bay. Also, in essentially a pick'em against Jake Odorizzi. I think that's partially due to the fact that Detroit has not been a very good offense recently, obviously without Miguel Cabrera. It's a team that struggled last night as well. So he's essentially in a pick'em. Jose Fernandez is a guy who is a minus 125 favorite against David Price and Bryce Harper and company. So Fernandez really in a good spot here. A marginal favorite against Jordan Zimmermann on the other side. A lot of that due to the fact that the Marlins offense has been terrible. But Fernandez coming off his last performance at Arizona, 11 Ks in 7 innings. His best performance yet since returning. Also had 9 Ks in 7 innings against the Reds. Did walk 2 batters, but you're not too worried about that. So I think with all those factors considered, you take a small discount and you get Jose Fernandez as your top option. Really don't mind any of the other options there either. And David Price. Sonny Gray, great GPP option at $9,900. Facing off against the Dodgers, who are the best team in all of baseball against right-handed pitching. Then you got other guys like Noah Syndergaard against San Diego. San Diego may be the team that's cleaning the house here next, and we might see a depleted lineup here upcoming. Syndergaard, I like him whether they trade people or not tonight at $8,800. Jeff Samardzija, another one of those guys who could get dealt, so be wary of that. Be wary of all these guys because a lot of things could change tonight and in the upcoming days. So keep that in mind as you're building your lineups and making sure. We saw Shane Victorino last night was in the lineup and then got traded. So nothing for sure until these games actually start. So keep your eye on it tonight. CJ Wilson, interesting option against Houston. $7,900. He's been pitching pretty well recently. Doesn't have a lot of upside at that price, though. So I think he's more of a secondary cash game option. Wade Miley at $7,800. I hate talking about how Wade Miley may be a good play. And I don't like Wade Miley. His peripheral numbers are not that good. He's got a terrible pedestrian strikeout rate of just 16.9%. His ground ball rate's okay, almost 49%. XFIP of 4.3, walk rate of 9. A lot of red flags here, but it's also a White Sox team that has been by far the worst team in all of baseball against lefties. So at $7,800, he's an okay tournament option. I'll target any lefty against Chicago right now, and I think he's interesting. Hisashi Iwakuma is the guy I would consider in cash games in the middle tier. $7,600. This is a guy who struggled early in the season. He struggled when he first came back from injury, but since then started to turn it around. As we know, his biggest concern is with the long ball. So far this season, just 42 innings, 2.14 home runs per 9. Obviously not going to maintain that. 51.5% ground ball rate. He doesn't walk many batters. 4.1% this year is actually higher than it was last year. So Hisashi Iwakuma has had 3 straight good performances against 3 tough teams. The Angels, at the Yankees, at Detroit. $7,600 tonight in this matchup against Arizona, who has not been nearly as good on the road. Pitchers Park in Seattle. I really like him a great deal tonight. Other guys to consider, there are not a whole lot of them that you feel any sort of confidence in. If you want to chase the hot hand with the rookie, Zach Godley had a great performance first time out, $5,800 against Seattle tonight. Seattle obviously much better against righties than lefties. I think he's an okay option. Brett Anderson at $7,300. A fine secondary cash game option if you ask me at $73 because Oakland is 20th in the league in team WOBA against left-handed pitchers. Catcher options. Buster Posey, once again, your top option. $4,400 though, so you're gonna have to pay to get him. But I think he's in a great spot. Matt Wieters, though, just continues to be way too cheap. $2,300 if he's in the lineup. Near minimum salary once again. I think he just makes a whole lot of sense as the guy that you target here. And then below that, of course, Victor Martinez, $3,300 against Jake Odorizzi. Odorizzi has seemingly fixed his fly ball struggles that he had last season. He's doing much, much better this season, but also his strikeout rate is down. Fly ball rate still not where you'd like it to be, 36.5%. Ground ball rate of 41, but significant improvement from last season. So, Victor Martinez, though, a guy that I'll play against nearly any pitcher. Odorizzi, above average pitcher, but still not a great pitcher. Not a guy that I'm trying to avoid. So I think he's in a fine spot. If you want a tournament option, you got Monty Grandal from the left side at home. We know what he's been doing in that. Against Sonny Gray, who hasn't been great over his last couple starts. So you consider him. And AJ Pierzynski, guy with some upside at $3,000. you don't like his price. I think I prefer a guy like Josh Fegley, who is $2,800 against the lefty, and Brett Anderson, because he mashes left-handed pitching. So I want to get a piece of that. And another guy who crushes lefties, but doesn't ever seem to be in the lineup against lefties anymore, Robinson Chirinos at $2,700. He's had a couple nice games in a row as well. First base options. Gotta love Edwin Encarnacion against the lefty. Gotta love all the Toronto guys against the lefty tonight. Big total of 9 runs there, so 4,600. You gotta love him. Paul Goldschmidt against the homer prone Hisashi Iwakuma. So if we see the sloppy Iwakuma, gotta like Goldschmidt there. Other options, Jose Abreu is still too cheap. He's $3,200 against Wade Miley. He's the first guy I'm targeting from that White Sox team. They haven't been great, but they've been pretty good recently. So Jose Abreu in the middle of there, that's the guy you want. Way too cheap. Other options you've got, Brandon Belt is an okay option here. I like to pick on guys against Willie Peralta. Willie Peralta is just terrible against left-handed batters. Brandon Belt at $3,100. Nice cheap value there. Mark Teixeira against lefty. Martin Perez at $38 is a fine option as well. And then Adam Lenz, I'm of the belief that he's going to be traded probably to the Cardinals. That's all speculation. It's just hearsay. Everyone has their own opinions on these things. He was held out due to a back injury supposedly last night. Whether you believe that or not, he may be on the move. But if he is playing, I like him a lot. And then Chris Davis. This guy's now hitting lefties really well. He's hitting righties really well. He's got homers in 3 of his last 6 games. Gets Julio Teheran, who really struggles with left-handed batters. 378 WOBA allowed, 7 home runs in the season. Go ahead and chase the upside with Chris Davis, because I certainly will be. Second base options, Jose Altuve against the lefty, $4,400. You gotta like him. And he's against C.J. Wilson, who's pitched pretty well, but Altuve, as you know, just a great, great hitter against left-handed pitchers. Brian Dozier, you prefer him against lefties. Charlie Martin actually pretty good against righties, but $3,800, he's a nice tournament option. Robbie Cano at $36 against the guy I mentioned earlier, Zach Godley. It's a fine option. Colton Wong at $2,000 against Mike Leake, who has been much better against left-handed batters recently, but still not great. 325 WOBA allowed. And then you got guys like Neil Walker from the left side of the plate against Mike Pelfrey. That's where you want to attack Mike Pelfrey. $3,100, he's a great play there. Hard to ignore guys like Ben Zobrist as well. Same exact price there. Been a great cash game option recently. And a fine matchup against Brett Anderson, who, great ground ball pitcher, but he does give up a lot of contact as well. Third base options, you want Josh Donaldson. If you can't get Josh Donaldson, try to get Josh Donaldson. $4,700. He is a monster against left-handed pitching. He is the guy that you want to be targeting. A 325 WOBA, 186 WRC plus, 441 WOBA. Everything going for him tonight. He's going against Adam Morgan, as you know. And Adam Morgan, a guy who, he's not a strikeout pitcher at all, 15.4%, but he's allowing a 50.6% fly ball rate, 1.65 home runs per 9 so far. You do the math against, by far, the best offense against left-handed pitching, also the best home offense in all of baseball. The Blue Jays are 26 points higher in WOBA against left-handed pitching than any other team. They have an ISO of 182, which is 16 points higher than anyone else. 130 WRC plus, which is 16 higher than anyone else. You get the math. You do the math here. Josh Donaldson's the guy you want. If you're going to swerve off him, because he will be a popular play, and obviously that's a viable strategy in tournaments. Todd Frazier gets a lefty and Jaime Garcia at 4K. You like him. Manny Machado, you like really against everyone. Gets a righty in Teheran. Teheran much better against righties, but so is Manny Machado. So something's got to give there. A-Rod, of course, at 4K. You're certainly still considering him. Matt Duffy at $3,400. I love Matt Duffy still in this spot as well. I'm really not going really cheap, but Chris Bryant is $3,000. So you're going to consider him. If you need a cheap guy, it's him or Kyle Seager. Or you go Danny Valencia at $2,900 against the lefty. Not much power against lefties, but a great player against lefties. Puts ball in play. Great WOBA against lefties over the past few seasons. Shortstop options. Troy Tulowitzki's still really cheap at $3,600. Gets Dallas Beeler, who got roughed up last time out. You consider him certainly against a subpar pitcher. Really wasn't on him last night against Kyle Hendricks as a good pitcher, but I think he's in a fine spot. Same goes for Jose Reyes at $35. Correa is your tournament option at $3,800 there. I mentioned Peralta's struggles with lefties, so that puts Brandon Crawford firmly in play at $3,100. But for me in cash games, it's going to be Alcides Escobar at $2,300 against Trevor Bauer, or Xander Bogaerts at $3,000. Slotted to face Jeff Samardzija, but I mentioned he may be on the move as well, so you got to take advantage there, especially if Samardzija is not playing and if he gets dealt. Outfield options, there are quite a few. A couple guys that I like their splits. Platoon guys, Chris Young against the lefty, Martin Perez, $2,900. Marlon Byrd against the lefty, $2,400. And Tommy Garcia, nearly minimum salary. One of the hottest hitters on the planet, Melky Cabrera, $3,500. He has RBIs in 7 consecutive games now, and 8 of his last 9. The guy is absolutely locked in. Got to consider him against Wade Miley tonight. White Sox might be actually a pretty, maybe not a sneaky stack after what they did last night, but definitely a stack to consider. Jose Bautista, we usually see him well over $5K against left-handed pitchers, $4,400. Can't imagine him not being highly owned, so that's definitely a way that I'll be looking as well. Got Mike Trout at $5,600. Way too pricey, dealing with a wrist injury. Although Colin McHugh, $354, well below to righties. You're certainly considering him as well. Nelson Cruz at $4,000. I'll consider him against anyone the way he's hitting right now. Gets that godly. He's in a good spot as well. And then a couple other guys, Lorenzo Cain at $3,800. Another one of those guys that always seems to go under-owned. Had another nice night last night. He's in a fine spot. Adam Eaton, a guy who's in a lefty-lefty. Consider him in tournaments. He's not terrible against lefties. He's usually a pretty good cash game play. Certainly will not be playing him in cash. Gerardo Parra, if he's not dealt, $3,400 against Matt Cain. I love that spot for him. Same goes for Yoenis Cespedes. Not the trade rumors necessarily, but against Jake Odorizzi. I think he's got great upside there. And then a few other cheaper options for you here. You get Carlos Gonzalez now against a bad righty, $3,000. I'm certainly considering him. Adam Jones against Tehran, you don't love. He had a really bad game last night, so kind of a guy that I'm looking away from. Corey Dickerson at $3K, only a few games removed from his injury. Gotta like him. Chris Colabello, if you want a cheap piece of the Toronto bats, $2,900. That's a great way to go for you there. And then as far as really cheap options, Justin Upton, assuming that he's still batting, is no center guard. Center guard was struggled big time with this team last time out. Not to say that means anything necessarily, but Upton, his production is still way too cheap at $2,700. The same goes for Josh Hamilton, who's actually a decent hitter against left-handed pitchers throughout his career. $27 for him. Not too bad of an option. And you're looking at a couple guys from Minnesota trying to take advantage of Charlie Morton's splits. You've got Eddie Rosario at $2,600, and then Aaron Hicks at $2,800. Those are two other guys that I'm looking at. And one more cheap guy for you, Gregory Polanco, $2,500. This guy just continues to hit the ball, continues to get on base. Hasn't stolen a base over the last 10 games, but wouldn't be surprised to see if he tries to get back on today because Kurt Suzuki incapable of preventing runners from advancing. And that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.